Hey everyone, welcome back to our Linux for Beginners series. We'll be going from zero to hero basically. Today we are diving into basics of Linux using Linux terminal. We'll be navigating the file system, working with some files, some directories. If you are new or you are new to command line or shell, this video is definitely for you. I'm picking up from where I left last week. Before I do that, before I dive deeper into terminal, what terminal is and how you use it, I wanted to show you one thing because in the previous video, 2 weeks back, that video which I created, I was showing you something which is multi-pass, but I experienced one problem and I wanted to share with you how you can uh, basically modify multipass settings to make it work. For example, in my case, I'm running multipass GUI. All you had to do was, go into Launchpad and search for multipass. You can see here it shows 4 instances. One of them is running, rest three are stopped. So one thing that I did was I went to settings. I set the instance name to Learn Linux. uh, also had some configuration problems. To recover from that, I had to take a reboot. And when you close this application, it asks you, do you want to stop the instance also? You can say, leave the instance running in the background. That's what we are doing. But that was quick tip on multipass. If you run into some trouble or you don't want to kind of specify the name every time you run command. So now when I say multipass shell, I am by default saying log into learn Linux because that's what I mentioned there, right? So that was just quick tip. Coming back to the terminal, right? So the screen you see, it is called terminal, right? It is very powerful tool that you can interact with on your Linux machine. If you are on a Linux physical machine, you can use Control Alt and F1, F2, F3, right? So by default, uh, for example, Red Hat generally have 5 terminals available. I think sixth or seventh is graphical user interface. So Control Alt F1 2, you can do that and you'll be able to kind of get into different terminals. If you are on GUI, still you can get into terminal. All you have to do is Control Alt and press F1, right? Control Alt 2 3, like that. You can kind of scroll between different terminals. There was another command also called chvt. I think, uh, okay, before I get into CHVT, I wanted to show you something. How would you get help if you know a command? How would you get help for that command, right? For example, this chvt, change virtual terminal, right? So if I say chvt hyphen hyphen help, this is one way of kind of seeing how you can get help for something. Another way of doing is you can run a command named man is manual, Linux manual pages, right? So what I'm saying is man chvt. If I run this, it gives me some details. All I need to do is, press some buttons. It clearly says press H for help, Q for quit. If I say Q, I'm out of it, right? But Linux doesn't have just one man page. So you can specify, you know number specifically, or you can say man hyphen a. That means show me all the man pages that it has, right? So if I say quit, it had only one man page, but I can maybe um, show you something. This is a signal, kill. It has multiple man pages. So thing you see here, it says kill, in the bracket it says one. You're looking at the first man page, and it tells you, it gives you details about what this does. But if you press Q, Now you are getting into the second man page. All you had to do is press enter, right? Now you are it is showing you the C library for system calls by kill command. So you press Q again, you get out of it, right? Similarly, there is a command called cron. So you, if you do man hyphen a, by default it is showing you eighth manual page. But if you do uh, Q, you are out of it. But another one, very interesting one, cron tab. Uh, I ran man cron tab. It's shown me very first command line manual. This gives me the options how I can run the command, and that's about it. All I'm doing is pressing space bar, and that's how it was scrolling down, right? But you can always use up arrow, down arrow keys to navigate. Now if I press Q, instead of getting out, it says cron tab 5. All I need to do is press enter. Now I am seeing the table for cron. It is kind of giving me more details into how to use cron tab file. So if I scroll down, you can see it is giving a lot more details into it, right? So that is how you use man pages. So getting back to where we started, the terminal in a physical machine, you can do Control Alt F1, Control Alt F2. On a virtual machine, you can use CHBT, uh, and with the help of CHBT, you can kind of switch the terminals, right? Command CHBTN makes TTYN the foreground terminal. Now, what is this TTYN? N is the number. Okay, so here it says Control Alt FN is the range usually from 1 to 12. You can control all this, how many terminals you want to have, but what is this dev tty, right? So if I do lsl dev tty star, you can see there are many files, and these are special files. It starts with C, it's a character file. We'll talk about these in another video, but for now, just understand that if you are on a Linux terminal, you can use chvt to switch the terminal, right? Change the terminal to another screen. Right. So there is another command called info chvt. So another way of looking the man pages, right? Similar to man pages, there is a command called info. You can use that, right? So this is kind of your way to get started to find help. So man, let's say you don't know the command, you know only a portion of it, but you don't know the command, right? So what do? Either you can do man, so you're looking manual pages for the manual pages, right? You can do man. It tells you all the options, right? You can see here hyphen K is there, hyphen F, L, W, right? So if you press space, it is kind of giving you details how you read it. For example, here it says man hyphen K printf, right? So you are giving it a short description and it is searching for all the man pages, right? If I say man hyphen K printf, any command that has some references in man pages to printf is shown there. Earlier, if you recall, I was showing you cron, right? I knew that there is a cron tab with multiple man pages, so that's how I was showing you the output. Otherwise, you can anyways run man hyphen K cron, right? So it is finding all the related cron tabs. Let me move it a bit so that you can see. I'm not covering the screen. But anyways, you see here, right? Cron tab, and it has more details. All of these, the very first column can be used with, for example, like this, man run this once, and you have the output, right? This output is kind of details about that particular command, how to use that command. For example, this command is run once. All right, so this was kind of very high level overview of how you use your terminal to get help, right? And how many terminals Linux has? Generally, they have six, some has even more, but anyways, you can basically use Control Alt F1, 2, 3, 4 like that to switch between terminals. And if you are on GUI, you can still press Control Alt F1 and you'll be able to get back to a terminal. Or you can run a command and or a terminal prompt within your GUI, and you can run commands there, right? Chvt was another command that people use to kind of switch terminals. uh, All right. So we were looking at CHVT. For example, I was saying Control Alt F1, F2. You can do that, right? But for CHVT to function properly, because these files, dev tty star, others don't have any permissions, you cannot read and write. That's why when you run, uh, you know, let's say chvt 5, it is not able to run it. Why? Because it is trying to read a file named this dev.tty, and it doesn't have any rights to read this file. So that's why it didn't work. So what you can do is sudo chvt. Now, since it is not a physical machine, you are not changing anything. But if it was a physical machine, you'll see you are on a different terminal. You can run commands like tty to see where you are sitting. You can do this. But anyways, you are sitting on a virtual terminal, right? Okay. um, Moving on. Next is navigating the file system, right? How would you kind of move from one directory to another? That is command cd. Cd is literally change directory, right? Short form of change directory. So cd, let's say tmp, right? I am in temp directory because I did cd, right? So in previous video also, I shown you something special. If I say cd this, I land in my home directory, right? So where log, if I am sitting in some other directory, I do cd, I land in my home directory. Because by default, when you say cd, it is assuming that you are running this cd and tilde. The tilde is your home directory, right? So we discussed this in our previous video. But anyways, this is how you kind of navigate different directories. So for example, you are sitting in this directory, you want to go one level up, you do cd dot dot. So dot dot is a special uh, use case which refers to the previous directory, right? There is another thing called cd dot, right? How do we even see this? lsl, if I do this, you don't see anything. There is no dot dot, no uh, dot directory, right? But if you do lsld dot, now you see something. It shows a dot here and it shows some permissions, right? But how about I want to see that lsld, this one, right? It shows this as well, right? But how do I see if I say lsltr and a is showing hidden files also, right? So now you see this, it shows a hidden directory dot and another directory dot dot. So these are kind of two special use cases. So if I want to go one level up, I do dot dot. If I want to go two level up, because there is a slash that defines you are changing, basically directory structure, you are traversing the path. So if I do this, I will be on slash. You see, I'm on slash right now, right? So if I do pwd, I am in the root directory. So does root also have any parent? What do you think? All right, let's see. If you do this, it says there is a parent, but where would it go? Right? If I do cd dot dot, doesn't do anything. right? Doesn't do anything. You are sitting in the top level directory, right? So if I do this, basically what I'm telling is, tell me the inode number. I is this one. Inode number is how files are stored inside Linux, right? So if I do ls lid for etcd, hold on, etc says it is 42. It's a, if I say var log, it gives a different number. That's how Linux is able to find that file in your hard disk. It's a bit advanced topic. We'll talk about that maybe in future. But for now, just understand, on the root directory also there is a dot dot, but you don't go anywhere, right? Because you are already sitting on the top of the directory structure tree. So and interesting thing for these two is that your id is 2. Okay, it is same for this one and this one. Inode number is same. Okay, all right. So now getting back to uh, commands that I was using, right? I have been using pwd. Pwd is print working directory or present working directory, right? So very easy, you can do pwd and it does the thing. It shows you where you're sitting, right? I want to read more about this, I can do man pwd. It shows local, physical. See there, man pages are very important. The more you read them, the more you learn about your operating system. I still read them whenever I'm running a new command. I always look at man pages, right? So uh, this is very important. Learn it, start to use man pages. uh, ls is list directories, right? List directory content. We have been using this for quite some time now. I have been doing all kind of I've been running all kind of commands and doing lsl or ls, right? So if I do man ls, then it lists all the options it has. So you want to do, you want to show this slash at the end, right? Then lslf, right? For example, var log. What is the benefit of doing this? One thing, one difference I see is it very clearly tells me it's a directory. There is something inside it, and this is a file. I can anyways otherwise also see from this d. D is for directory, the very beginning character in the output. That's a D. D for directory. L is for link. This hyphen, it tells me it's a file. If it is hyphen, it's a file. Okay. There are different type of uh, file or directory nomenclatures, how you see them. For example, we were looking at dev directory. There are character devices, there are block devices. For example, uh, if I see this one, it's a block device, right? There is a character device. We'll maybe dive deeper into what is a character device or block device. But for now, understand, we ran few things. We ran pwd, we ran ls, we ran cd, right? We looked at the top level directory, which is slash. We looked at the inodes with l s ls hyphen lid slash, right? And we kind of moved between different directories. Now you want to play with the directories, so you can do mkdir test. Now what did it do? It created another directory. How do I know it is directory? Because it says D, right? So a directory is created, I can do cd test, right? So it shows me it is in home ubuntu test, right? That's the real path. There are two things in path. The way you can look at path is, or the way you reference a path is either writing full path. For example, var log, right? I'm writing full path. Or you can write what we call as a relative path. A relative path means I'm already sitting in that directory. I'm, instead of giving its full path, instead of, for example, writing var log and then slash, then maybe let's say apt, right? So instead of doing this, I can do this definitely to get inside, right? Cd dot dot, I'm coming out, but I can also reference it as just apt because I'm sitting in that directory, right? That is why it is called a relative path, right? One is absolute path, you are giving full path, or another is a relative path. So if I want to, let's say, use the relative path, if I do this double dot, right, I am landing in where directory because I'm going kind of two levels up. So that was kind of one example, right? So I can do, let's say, do test. That means I'm saying take me to my home directory and put me inside directory called test, right? So if I do this, now it shows me I'm in home Ubuntu test, right? So if I want to go there, I can do cd and give the path of it, right? So just keep in mind there are two ways of addressing any file or directory. One is relative path, another is absolute path. You can use any one, but if you are sitting in the directory and you have a file or directory inside it, you can very easily use a relative path there, right? So let's create another directory, test2. Now if I do cd test2, you can see my path has extended and I'm inside test2 directory, right? You want to create some files, so you can run command called touch is you are just touching a file, it's creating a 0 byte file, right? So file dot txt. In Linux, it doesn't matter the extension, but having extension makes your life easy. You understand, what type of file it is. For example, here you see wtemp doesn't have, last log doesn't have any extension, dmessage doesn't have extension, but these files have extension. The syslog doesn't have extension, right? So having extension makes your life easy. You understand what type of file you are dealing with. That's why I added extension, but otherwise, you don't need it. But I did touch, and you can see 0 byte file, and a file got created, right? There are commands to read the content. Cat is concatenate. Cat is full form of concatenate, but if you do man cat, right, concatenates the file and prints on the standard output. So standard output we discussed in previous video as well. Standard output is what you see on your screen, that is standard output. What you are typing in on standard input, right? So if I say echo test and redirect this, now I am redirecting the output of that command. So if I run this, it says test. Now if I do this greater than sign is a redirection, right? I sent it in file. What happened? If I read the file now, it has some content, right? So this is how you create a file. We used touch command to create a file, cat command to read it. You can also use cat command to write. Also, cat has many use cases. But anyways, I don't want to kind of take a lot of time on cat or touch. Uh, it's just an idea. Uh, Definitely go and read the man pages, right? Man cat, man touch, right? So you know what options are there. Um, there are a few other commands, very important, you will use every day. One is called less. So if I say man less, less is command that you generally see with the man pages. So for example, if I say man touch, you can see this output. I am able to scroll down with the down arrow and up arrow. I can go up, right? with the down arrow I can go down, with up arrow I'm going up. All this is allowed by less command. Okay. We call pager command, but anyways, but less is a very important command. You can, with the less, you can basically open any file. For example, less etc password, right? So basically I am reading that file, I am able to scroll up and down in the file. It is just to view the content. I don't want to basically, if there are 1,000 lines in a file, I can do etc password, but it'll throw 1,000 lines on the screen and I won't have any control of scrolling up and down, right? Less kind of helps with that kind of situation, right? Anyways, read more man pages, read about it, right? Less has opposite called more. Okay. More etc password. Now difference between less and more is less allows you scroll up and down, more allows you to go down only, right? So all I'm able to do is, if I say more, you can see it says 89%. Next button, whatever I press, it shows the 100% and kind of exits out of it, right? So more var log, maybe syslog. Let's see. Yeah, so I can kind of press a space to go to full page, next full page, right? So you can see it is kind of showing the boot up process, but more is kind of similar to less. So if you are on a terminal and you need to see the file contents, you use less or more, right? Next, we have two more commands, very interesting. One is called head. Okay, head will print first 10 lines of a file, for example etc password. So if I say head and I'm in the end, I'm doing pipe wcl. Pipe is helping me send the output of that previous command to the next command. Pipe is very important. It is called input output redirection. We'll talk about it maybe during one lecture, but we just saw output of echo getting redirected to file, right? The file I created, right? Similarly here I'm running head command, and WCL is word count and listing the number, how many lines are there. So as I was saying, when you run head, it gives you the first 10 lines, but I can say head 20. Now it is giving me first 20 lines, right? Head has, like less had more, right? There was a command less, there was another command more. So if there is head, then there need to be a tail also, right? So tail etc password. If you run this, now it is, rather than from top, it is giving you from the bottom of the file, right? So if I show you the full file, right? So let's do cat hyphen n maybe. So line number 33, it says Ubuntu 32 is Polkit, right? But if we look at the line number 1, it says root, then daemon, right? So let's first see with the tail. You see, it is showing us the last lines. You can see here, right? And it is showing the last line, last 10 lines. If we do head, then very first line we should see root, right? And first 10. But again, tail also takes similar parameter. Tail 30, it is showing you 30 lines from bottom, right? Bottom to up. Head 30 goes from top to bottom. Okay, that's the difference. Now tail has interesting use case. Tail hyphen f. F means it can follow. So when you keep writing in a file, you are always writing at the tail end of the file, right? So you do var log syslog. This is something you will notice when people are troubleshooting in Linux. They will have some sort of log file which is open like this: tail hyphen f. F is follow, and we are saying follow varlog syslog. Okay. All right. So we looked at touch, we looked at cat, less, more, head. tail. Another command, cp. Cp is copy, right? So what we have here, we have file.txt. Oh yes, another thing that I'm able to, if I say F and I am pressing tab, this tab is helping to complete the, whatever is next available there, right? So this is called command completion, and it is part of the bash shell itself. And that's how I am able to kind of do ls, for example, and a tab, and it shows the text magically. It's command completion in action, right? So cp file.text, if I say again file.text, it gave me another name, so I did two, right? Now I have two files. How do we know these are two different files? Recall, I was showing you there is something called inode number. So if I do lsli, you can see 315 and 316. So these are two different files. So if I say echo test2, and if I say this, now we can see file 1 has test, file 2 has test2. Okay, all right, so two different files. How did it happen? We used cp command to create a copy of a file, right? So you can play around with it. Again, read man pages, very important. You should spend some time reading man pages, right? Now this was, we wanted a copy of the file. What if I want to rename the file, right? So I don't want it to be file.txt. I want it to be a special file.txt. So you do mv, move. Mv is move. Okay, so I moved that file and made it a special file.txt, right? Next, you can, if now you are in this directory, you want to remove that file, you can do rm. Okay, be very careful with the rm. If you run rm against a important file, there is no trash can here, right? Like in windows you have that trash. Linux also has it. If you are in GUI, if you are on command line, there are ways to recover, but it's not as straightforward as going to, the trash and recycle bin, whatever, right? So it's not easy to go to recycle bin and say restore. So be very careful when you remove a file. So what happened? I deleted that and file disappeared, right? There is no file named a special file.txt. In the output, we don't see it, right? So now I want to show you something else. Can I rm test2 as well? Because test2 is a directory. Will it let me? What do you think? It won't, because it has content in it. It says you cannot remove the directory, right? So test2, if I remove that file, what do you think? Did it remove test2 also, or did it remove the file 2 only? It removed the file only, right? So if I do lsl, you can see here is that directory. If I do rm now, still same story, right? Doesn't let me remove. What do I do? Man pages, right? Man rm. I know it, so I don't need to, but you can simply do rm-rf test2. F, rf is recursively, r means recursive, f means force. I can do -f, and see, it doesn't let me because it's a directory. All I need to do is rf. Okay, all right. Well, we went through a couple of commands. We looked at, I think it's time to do a quick recap of everything we did. We looked at terminal, we looked at chvt, we did look at some of the settings for multipass, right? So this is how I was able to just say multipass shell, and I am able to get inside the Linux shell. With chvt, I had to do sudo chvt, let's say 5, right? Then only it works. If I run it without sudo, it doesn't, because there are no read permissions or write permissions. But anyways, right, if you are on a physical machine, you do control alt f1 2 3, right? You can change between different terminals. Generally control alt 7 is your GUI if you are on Red Hat type environment. um, then after that, we looked at some of the commands. For example, we looked at directories, right? We did cd, pwd, ls. We looked at dot dot directory. We looked at dot directory. We looked at special root directory. We looked at the inode numbers with ls hyphen li, and we did mkdir, rmdir. Yes, rmdir is something we didn't do, right? So we have this test directory. So if I say mkdir test2, now if I say lsl, there is directory rmdir test2, right? Remember, I was doing rm hyphen rf. Rm rf is very dangerous. Be very careful. Verify your command 10 times where you are running, because once you do it, your data is gone. There are ways of recovering it, but it is not as easy going to recycle bin and restore. Okay, so that's why I wanted to give you a testing environment where you can play and delete things, right? Don't do it on your laptop, do it inside this test machine, because we can literally create it whenever we need, right? We looked at touch command, we looked at cat, uh, we did echo and redirected the output, less, more, head, tail. What else? We looked at CP, we looked at MV, we looked at RM, right? So that was kind of a quick summary of commands for today. Um, I'll see you during next video. And oh yes, before I close, I wanted to show you something more. So in the channel for the Linux, if you go in the channel, you'll see a little bit more details about how I'm proposing to or thinking to add the content into it. There'll be 12 videos for beginner level, then getting into intermediate, advanced, and then some specialized too, right? So I'm adding kind of details here. There'll be a module, we'll be adding something. So this today's video will go here, and I'll add YouTube here. um, you know, so that you have a reference, one location where you can go and you can see, some details, the commands I talked about, right? So I'm trying to give it a structure so that it becomes a reference for anyone who is interested in learning Linux from scratch and going all the way to very specialized tooling, and maybe DevOps, CI/CD. Yeah. So for now, that is what I wanted to share. I'll see you in 2 weeks, because next week I'm recording for my advanced users. Take care. And for your homework, uh, maybe you should try running these commands on your own. Create a folder, maybe named practice. Inside the folder, create a file named notes. Copy that file to another, maybe a backup or something. Then try sending some data inside it, reading it, looking at different directories for their inode numbers. Do touch, do pwd, look at head, tail, read about them, look at the man pages. And with that, I'm done. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye bye.